On Men's Health Awareness Month, and we talk about Movember. Let me just give you a bit of detail. A global initiative dedicated to raising awareness about men's health issues like prostate cancer. We'll talk about testicular cancer, mental health, and suicide prevention, and also encouraging men to take charge of their physical and mental well-being, seek help when needed, and normalize conversations about the topic. So, common activity during this month is growing a moustache. Big shout out to all the daddios who have done that. But today, courtesy of Econet Wireless, we want to give men support and talk about issues that resonate with their day-to-day survival. And it is an absolute honor to have in the studio joining us Dr. S.M Chirisa. He's a medical doctor and specialist psychiatrist. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Nikki.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And you know, one of the issues that we have decided to zone in on, and we're so happy to have you, is the issue of suicide. We'll be getting into it, but I think the first thing is, in your opinion, what are the most common causes of mental health issues in men?
Apparently, there's growing isolation, with men, and that leads to loneliness, that leads to depression. They find themselves on their own. A case in point is when you go to the hospital, any hospital. Mm-hmm. If there's a female in the ward, a clan is visiting. If there's a man in the ward, he probably does not get a visitor. So loneliness is one of them. Then we've got things like depression, which is coming, substance use, and alcohol disorders, as men try to deal with their psychological and social issues. They then self-medicate themselves with alcohol and drugs, and that is a medical condition on its own, a psychological condition on its own. And not only that, but it also exacerbates other things like depression and anxiety. And then you've got the usual common mental disorders. Your anxiety, men also suffer from anxiety, they suffer from depression. Huge numbers. For example, depression, we're talking about 10% of men above the age of 18, adult men, suffer from depression. So for every 100 men, 10 are actually suffering from depression that needs treatment. And most of them, they don't get it. So we've got the common mental disorders. Then we've got the usual psychiatric disorders, your schizophrenia, your bipolar. There are a whole lot of personality issues. And things that I've been seeing now, especially in my practice, is men that have been sexually abused.
Dr. Chirisa?
I'm telling you.
Dr. Chirisa?
Yes. And so what we see now is that there's a lot of sexual abuse, which is happening silently. We usually talk about sexual abuse in women or in girls, but the sexual abuse that is happening in boys. And when those boys are now men, they are difficult because they are so traumatized, difficult to come out, and most of them actually leads to suicide. I
love what you just say there. The 2025 Men's Month theme is supporting men and boys for a better future. And just in case you are wondering, today is International Men's Day, and I would love to hear from you. What should men do to seek help? There's so many things that you've highlighted. And clearly, from what you are saying, men seem to feel like they shouldn't be included in the conversation.
I'm telling you that being a man is tough. And it's tough for most men, especially in this new era where, there's been disruption in the normal masculinity. And it still goes on, and there's a lot of confusion. There's the right wing and the left wing. You've got people that are pushing the macho and the people that are trying to do traditional, people that are trying to do Christian. And there's disillusion on what it means to be a man. So the most important thing is each man must define what it means to be a man. And then they are stable with that definition. Because without that, the confusion will just lead to problems. But not only that, men have been, society has given them, this demand that you must be the provider, you must be tough, you must not cry. And yet men are also emotional. I like a book that was written by one author. He says, he emotions, that men are just as emotional as women. but the way they show their emotions is different. Now, because it's different, we think they're not emotional. And that lack of understanding leads to them to just pick up, suffer alone, and when they then act out of that suffering, when that volcano erupts, they're unstoppable. They do hurtful things to their family, to their wives, to their society, to themselves. And that then leads to all the things that we see, including suicide.
Are we accommodating them in or creating safe spaces where men can come out and say, hello, I need help. Hello, I'm not okay.
We are starting to see a trickle, of that. But a lot needs to be done. I think, I like what Econet is doing here. It's raising that awareness. And more corporates should actually do it within their corporate setup, where men are educated. Because without awareness, without educating, that it is okay to feel depressed, it is okay to feel inadequate. And then when you acknowledge that, you then know what to do, and you are then given a pathway of dealing with those situations. That can only happen with awareness and education.
I want to zone in on a conversation that is deemed uncomfortable, but it's a reality. Suicide.
Yeah.
And there are more cases of suicide and reports of suicide within men.
True.
Now, suicide risks are on the rise. And why is that? And what can be done to reduce?
Now, I think what you need to understand is when somebody reaches a point where they are contemplating of committing suicide, which is ending their lives or their life, we must understand that they have reached the end of themselves. Nobody just gets to a point from Norway that I want to kill myself today. Something has been happening
over time.
Yeah. And people have tried to reach out, and they've not been heard. People have tried to tame whatever has been, pushing them, without any, success.
Doc, I have to stop you there. Someone has been reaching out, but men don't open up. Apparently, men don't speak out. So, what are the signs of I'm reaching out, I'm not okay, that we've been missing as a society?
So one of the things, the silent sign that I always see is change in behavior. When you see a man change their behavior in any way, like for example, they just a sudden increase in alcohol use or drinking, which was not there, sudden recklessness, then you know that something is happening. That's a sign. So even isolation, just quiet, social withdrawal from friends, from family, they want to be by themselves. When you see anybody isolating themselves, that's a serious risk right there. And we have seen some of them also just, writing or commenting things, and, which shows that this person has given up. And say, those kind of things, where you shows that somebody doesn't care anymore. So there are subtle signs that you see. They'll never come up and say, I want to kill myself. That's the last part. But you can see the subtle signs of self-isolation, increased poor judgment, recklessness, and all those kind of things.
Would love for you to respond on our WhatsApp platform. Dr. Chirisa is here. Super proud to have him in the studio. And also, Dr. Chirisa, don't forget to add the wife. Allow me to read this.
Let's hear.
So one of the things that I don't forget to add the wife as one of the causes. So let me add this to my next question. Some of the common mental health challenges that arise in relationships.
All right.
Let me sanitize it for you.
Yes. In fact. So relationships. When you look at suicide, the causes are not too many. Number one, you've got obviously mental health issues and not being able to accept that I've got a mental health issue, whether it's schizophrenia, bipolar. Men struggle with accepting that they've got mental health issues. And I always want to normalize that, just like people can have hypertension, can have asthma, you can also have a mental health condition, and it's just medical. Number two, you've got your finances.
Finances
are a huge thing, especially with men, especially when they cannot provide. That's a huge stressor, and people underestimate, and now that is then the salt is added to the wound when your ego is then attacked. Also, Murume, you cannot apply, you can send your kids to school and all that. That really kills and drives a man to the bottom, rock bottom. But relationships are so key, because men, usually a man does not have many relationships. Men don't have very close relationships. A study was done where men were asked, who is your best friend? 60% said my wife. The wives were asked, who is your best friend? 20% they said their husband. So you can see there's a disconnect there. As men, especially as they grow older, their support system just goes. And the main support system that sort of like should remain is their especially marital marriage. And now that if there's disorder there, it's a huge thing. And now we see a lot of cheating in marriages. My wife usually says Shiria Vuta Regen, and women are cheating just as much as men, and that has sort of like flipped the ball.
Just out of interest, what would you attribute that to?
It's frustration. It's people are frustrated. I always say that people get married because of love, but you stay married because of wisdom. And most married people, they do not know how to work the marriage to make it tick. So a lot of people that are married right now, even those who are listening, they are frustrated in their marriage. They hate their marriage. They are not comfortable in their marriage. And it's not because the person that they married is wrong, but it's because they do not know the mechanics to make the marriage work. And if it is not taught, you cannot get it by osmosis. You cannot get it by age. You have to be taught to make a marriage work.
I'd love for you to know that we are streaming live on the Star FM Facebook page, and this conversation is pure gold. Dr. Chirisa,
yes,
we will include the word stigma as far as mental health is concerned. What role does stigma play in mental health?
Now, stigma is a huge word. And because of our culturalization and our history, anything that we cannot explain, we tend to attribute it to demons, spirits, and things like that. And when it comes to mental health, especially within our community setup, it's so stigmatizing to say that you've got a mental health issue. So people don't want, it then jeopardizes those people in terms of not getting help, not willing to talk about it, trying to hide it. And we see a lot of people trying to hide their mental health issues, instead of getting help, they hide. And once you hide it, and things don't get better with time, things just get worse. They spiral out. It becomes a cyclone, And so stigma has played a negative role in worsening the situation. And the only treatment for stigma is awareness. We have to talk about it. We have to be comfortable. We have to bring the mental health conversation to the forefront in churches, in corporates, in boardrooms, because I have seen people in all those spaces. It doesn't matter who it is. I always say that there is anybody can have a mental health issue. If I give you enough pressure for enough period of time, you will crack. Everybody has got a cracking point. We just crack at different points, and we crack at different issues. But everybody, including myself, has got a cracking point. Yes.
Now, here's something that I want you to reiterate on that. You talked about social institutions as the churches and of course the workplace. But these communities mold our characters. They support our well-being. In the private and public sphere, how can we improve mental health issues? What more can communities do?
All right, let me just start with the work community. We now spend 60% to 80% of our work hours at work.
Really?
So if we don't create safe spaces in there, we are living most of our lives, our work hours, in toxic workplaces. So the workplace is very important, especially to those who are working. to address the mental health issue. So it's important for corporates to really put in, to prioritize the mental health. But the other thing that we need to do is we now need to invest. We need there's an investment case to invest into mental health, provision and awareness within communities. Because once your mental health goes, your productivity, your meaningful contribution to the community, whether to the church or Zimbabwe itself, goes down. You become a liability. And the costs of that drop of somebody who was functioning, who's no longer functioning, can go into the millions.
My goodness.
And some people that have been trained, for example, it takes about $1 million to train a medical doctor. If that medical doctor goes into drugs and cannot work, you have just lost $1 million. And not only that, but you've lost all the other people that were supposed to be treated by that person. So if you compound the loss, there's an economic case to actually invest in mental health services across the board, both private and in public sector.
I'm looking at our time. There's so many questions on the WhatsApp platform. Please try and just compress. And we've got like 2 minutes right now.
All right.
A sibling has shut himself from the rest of the family.
That's a red sign.
For months now, not picking calls or responding to any WhatsApps. He's there, just quiet. How do we help him? He's outside the country. Another person says, thumbs up, Doc. Murkurama punchline. I just needed to throw that one in. Someone else says, what about us single fathers? We are suffering. And someone else says, Tafamuduri, things are so difficult for us as men, but there's no one to talk to. Bawa Arisi solution. Doc, 2 minutes.
I totally agree that alcohol and drugs will just compound. They just make you temporarily forget, but you still face the same demons and the same skeletons tomorrow morning when you're sober. What we need is forums where men can meet and normalize those kind of forums, not just mabuza and just gocha. We now need to have forums where men can sit calm and participate and speak real issues and crank this thing out and climb out of the hole that they have, including the single men.
I'm picking up intentionality.
Yes, we have to be intentional. And the men have to be comfortable to say, you know what, I'm struggling with this, and to seek help. And that's why we are that's why I came today. That there is a portal for you to get help. Get the help. Come forward and get help.
How do people get in touch with you, Doc?
Look, I'm now in full private practice, but there are free, places where you can go. Parenyatwa, Christian counseling, and all those. They also provide counseling for reasonable amount. I'm in private practice. They can come to me, 32 Josiah Tongogara. That's where I am. They can even Google and find me. I will give you my address.
Doc is living the difference right here. We appreciate you. The messages on the WhatsApp platform are overwhelming, and sadly we couldn't cover them. I feel like there's more of Dr. Chirisa that is needed to just unpack and to continuously analyze issues to do with mental health. In a nutshell, 30 seconds, your last words regarding International Men's Day, 19 November.
This is a very important day where men that are not normally celebrated or acknowledged are acknowledged. And what we are saying is, can we take advantage of this month? Get your health check, get your mental check. All these things are possible. There are people that are providing it for free. Take advantage of it, and may God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Chirisa, medical doctor, specialist psychiatrist. This program proudly brought to you by Econet Wireless in commemoration of Men's Health Awareness Month. And in this month where we talk about Movember, the theme, supporting men and boys for a better future. And so Econet Wireless inspired to change your world. Thank you for tuning in to Star FM, sounding good all the time. It is 9 o'clock and it's time for the news.
This is Zim Paper's Radio Broadcasting News.